This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNealy program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Today, I'm talking to Lea Thompson. She's also known on the web as Girl Gone Crypto. You know, and every time I say that, I get this vision of Girl Gone Wild, which were those videos back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And I'm like, and I said this to my wife when I said, hey, I'm interviewing that Girl Gone Crypto. She's like, don't say something stupid. And I'm like, I'm going to say, and I said, you know, I'm going to say something stupid, so I'm just going to get it out of the way because I'm going to accidentally call her Girl Gone Wild, and then it's just going to look stupid. So I said I'd get that out of the way first. So how are you today, Lea?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on, Rob. And I know it's kind of a catchy play of words there. You know, that's kind of what I was going for, but I know I apologize for all the people that trip over my channel name.
Oh, you know, when I was going back through and I've been on Twitter a long time, and people always ask, well, how do you get this following? Because I'm like, I was like number 62 in the world by followers at my peak because I came in so early. I got my Twitter account just after they started. And so it's like, and I just named it my name. I never like made a handle or, you know, and I'm like, I just always stuck with that. And I always thought maybe I need to do something interesting, but it just kind of stuck. And then I got people like, well, you should worry about your personal brand. So I'm like, okay, that's my personal brand. My name makes it easy. But then there's like, you know, there's a Rob McNealy who's like this really successful British like motorcycle racer. So like I have to compete with a British motorcycle racer for SEO on my own name, which is kind of funny.
Which actually, that's kind of part of why I went with something else, because SEO on my name, Lea Thompson, it's spelled exactly the same as the Back to the Future actress. And so I was like, that is a hopeless case. I am never going to win that SEO battle.
But at least you think about that. And SEO is a thing. And it seems like crypto people don't get SEO and lots of other things they don't get as far as marketing. So anyways, I digress. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into crypto?
Yeah, so my kind of crypto journey, I mean, I heard about Bitcoin back, I don't know, I want to say like 14, 15, but it's just more that I had heard about it. Like some people that I knew were mining it, but I didn't really ask more questions. I didn't really look into it too much. But then in kind of early 17, I stumbled across a blogging platform called Steemit. I don't know if you are familiar. Yep. Okay. Seems like most people in the crypto space are, but you know, and I hadn't really made content before, but I was like, well, this looks kind of fun. Maybe I'll, you know, I play a couple different instruments, and I was like, maybe I'll just make a little ukulele cover and post that and kind of see what happens. And, you know, it made like $100 or something. And I was like, whoa, what is this? So
what was the cover? What did you cover with your little ukulele?
My first cover was Creep, actually. So
nice.
Yeah. And I oh gosh, I should dig up the photo. I tried to look creepy in the photo. I thought that'd be funny. Anyway, that was just kind of, that got me down the rabbit hole, because then I was like, well, where did this money come from and how is it created? Like what do I do with it? What is this thing called an exchange? And so it just kind of, once I started actually contributing regularly on the Steem blockchain and posting content often, I was like, okay, I need to actually learn about this stuff. Like, how does any of this work? So that's kind of what, you know, got me going down the rabbit hole of crypto, and just been kind of, I would say, growing my knowledge ever since. I've been on the Steem blockchain for a few years now, like I said, posting content. And I kept getting requests to speak at different crypto conferences because people were following me on Steem. And even though I wasn't even making crypto content, I was just doing like ukuleles and random things. I was like, you know, maybe I should actually dig into this a little bit more and start making crypto content. So that's when Girl Gone Crypto was born, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. So that channel and brand is pretty new, but it's been just so much fun. I'm so glad that I did.
So is crypto and content creation your full-time occupation right now, or is this just like a side hustle at this point?
Right now, it's just a side hustle. I'm kind of intentionally, I don't want to say growing slow because that's not necessarily accurate, but I'm trying to be really intentional about how I monetize is what I'm trying to say. Like for me, I'm like, I can manage doing this on the side with my day job. I've got a great job that that I enjoy, that gives me a lot of flexibility. So I'm like, as long as I can. I kind of feel like when you get desperate for money, that's when you start making poor choices, in terms of accepting sponsorships or doing things that maybe aren't totally in line with your audience. And so for me, I would just way rather kind of hold off on not doing that much monetization at first and just kind of build my content and feel out my audience and kind of see where things go first. So yeah, just doing this on the side for now.
So you don't have to dox yourself, but what kind of work do you do for your day job? Don't name the company, but what field are you working in?
Yeah, so I work in like sales and account management for a tech company. And so I manage a lot of our big client relationships and partnerships. And so I've been doing that for about 7 or 8 years.
Very cool. So the ukulele thing, do you take requests? Like, do you do you do crypto ukulele songs yet?
I've dabbled a little bit here and there, and I'm working on at this moment a little fun Christmas carol kind of crypto spoof. So by the time this interview comes out, it'll probably be past Christmas, so you guys will be able to go find it on my channel. But I'm actually planning to record it tonight.
Well, if you say really nice, I'll make sure I get this edited and out by Tuesday.
Oh. So, all right.
So, I always kind of joke around in that in crypto, there's a lot of really cringeworthy kind of like crypto songs out there. Yeah. But I said, I was talking to Crypto Euclid. I don't know if you know who he is, but Crypto Euclid in Mystical Oaks, and they do some weird numbers. And I said, you haven't made it as a crypto project until somebody has done like a really cringeworthy crypto song to your chain. And I go, so somebody needs to do an elephant themed crypto song at some point. And then once we've done that, then I'll know that we've made it and arrived.
All right. Well, I might have to be that person that does it for you guys. We'll see. I'll make it as cringy as I can. I promise.
You have to have elephant special effects in the song if you're going to do it. So you have to get some kind of like elephant, like, I don't know. What do they call it when an elephant makes a noise? Is there a noise? Like, it's not like a roar. Elephant roar? Is it? I don't think elephant roar is a thing.
I'll look it up and I'll include it somehow in the song. I promise. Okay.
You make that, I'm pretty sure we can put in a worker proposal fund and compensate you if you can make it cringy enough. But I think it's pretty interesting. So content creation and blockchain, that's very interesting. It seems like everybody's got a podcast now, and I'm wondering if there's almost too many, pretty much. And with this podcast, I'm not just doing crypto. I do small business stuff and I do shooting and gun stuff. Basically, I'm interviewing people I want to interview because I find them interesting. And so I'm not just doing, crypto as the one topic because I think it's being overkilled personally. And I think it's going to change over time. I'm old enough that I went through the whole social media phrase or phase from 10 years ago. And I used to do a radio show about small business back then and started, podcasting and taking my radio shows that were over the air and putting them through. And so I was actually podcasting 10 years ago. Wow. And that's originally how I built a lot of my following, because I had a radio show and I was always pimping out Twitter because Twitter was so new. So I was like a real early adopter of Twitter and Facebook, for that matter of fact. And then I stopped because I just got busy actually running my business for a bunch of years. And then when we decided to get into doing crypto a couple of years ago, I noticed, wow, hold on, that crypto thing is really on Twitter. So maybe I should mothball my Twitter account, and that's what I did. And it's funny because people are like, oh, you got fake followers. I'm like, no. Nope, been here a long time. Been here since you were in junior high. But thanks for playing. But it's interesting how crypto has actually evolved a lot, or not, sorry, but Twitter and social media have evolved a lot in that time. And there's all these all these little vertical communities now, like crypto Twitter's a thing. My wife's a trained medical doctor. There's medical Twitter, there's lawyer Twitter. It's just kind of interesting how Twitter has all these little pockets now of little communities inside of them. It's kind of funny to me. So what do you find as far as content creation goes? What do you find are some of the things that are being done right in crypto? And what are some of the things that you think are being done incorrectly or poorly in crypto?
Ooh, okay. I think that in terms of content itself, I mean, I think that it depends on how you classify content, right? Like to me, a piece of content can be a tweet. It can be a full YouTube video. It can be, a podcast episode. It can be such a variety of different things. One area that I think is I don't see a lot of other people doing as much as they could in crypto Twitter specifically is posting shorter native videos. Like to me, that is where I get the most amount of engagement. And it's just really, because it is engaging. It's fun. Like I'll maybe take an interview that I did with someone and I will clip out, a minute or a minute and a half little section and kind of edit it into something that I post on Twitter. And so then that kind of helps drive traffic to the full YouTube video, but it also is just a more consumable little piece of content that gives people kind of a little taste of what they might get if they do want to go watch the whole thing. So in terms of something that I think seems to be working well that people could probably do more of is more short kind of native content. And so I guess that kind of answered what's going well and what could be going better kind of in the same punch.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think even like in another level of like what's not going well is, I mean, I think that, and I kind of touched on this earlier when I was talking about not wanting to like kind of over shill, is I feel like that is a real thing that happens in the Twitter or in the crypto content creation space is people kind of like overextending the use of their audience and kind of overshilling, and that can be a really tricky balance, I think, of monetizing your content, but then also being like just really authentic and open with your audience about that.
I've kind of struggled with that myself. And for instance, this podcast, the only reason I started podcasting again, like a year ago, is that when we first launched 2 years ago, and it's changed a lot since then, but we couldn't get interviewed on any podcasts in the crypto space because we didn't have the money. And all these influencers, even really small influencers, were literally charging astronomical sums of money to go on a podcast with like 100 followers or whatever. It was ridiculous. But since we didn't do an ICO, we're literally the whole stereotypical community project. Everybody's got a full-time day job, and we don't hide that fact. But we didn't have the money to pay influencers. And I told the team, I go, I got a pretty decent sized Twitter following. I'm going to have to like revamp the audience because my audience wasn't a Twitter audience, or I'm sorry, my Twitter, followers weren't like a crypto like following. So and I've been going through like a metamorphosis with it, which is interesting. Like a lot of people don't like the new type of content, and so I get new followers and old followers. It's leaving all times. It's interesting to see how they rebalance. But I think when we started doing this, I said, I almost have to just become a content creator to promote my own project. And so because of that, I don't charge. Like even you can attest, I didn't say, hey, give me some cash, come on my show.
Right.
And I interview other projects that some people might even consider potentially a competitor to Tusk. And I said, look, I'm in here for the space, and I want to talk to interesting people. And, there's a lot of interesting people working on projects that aren't mine. So I want to talk to those people, and I don't charge. I've never charged a dime for anybody. And how I monetize, quote unquote, the project is I run a commercial for Tusk and I just run an ad for Tusk. And it's like an in-kind. I don't take money from people. And it's funny because I'm starting to get people wanting to pay me to come on, which is interesting. I've had a couple people say, hey, can you tweet us out and pimp this? And I'm like, nope, not going to go for cash. But but I said to one guy, this literally 2 days ago, I said, why don't you just tell me about what you're doing and ask to come on the show? If it's something interesting, I'll shill it, or at least, talk to you about it, because it might be interesting. But if it's just kind of like, some kind of like weird scammy kind of play, I'm not just going to pimp for that. But
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things that has been interesting from the content creation side. We got into it out of desperation. I didn't want to be a podcaster again. But what I found is that I really started liking talking to people, because I like to talk to smart people, and I can always learn something. And I've already learned something from you. You've already given me a new idea. My little brain's kind of working. I can do
Ooh.
this thing. One of the things that I'll give you something that I see that I think is a mistake with a lot of crypto products. But one, most of them don't do marketing. That's number one. But two, the ones that are doing marketing, I do believe that hosting your own content as much as possible is important, because it drives value to your own domain. And unfortunately, when you host all your content in other people's platforms, you don't control that. And ultimately, you become dependent on them. If they decide to change their algorithms or their terms of service or what have you, boom, you're gone. And so I'll give you a great example of this. Now, I think Medium's an interesting platform, and I leverage Medium to drive traffic to I basically like to drive links back to content that's already on our existing sites. But I don't like it when people blog on Medium only. And I think that's a mistake, because you see a lot of people in crypto where they're like, dude, WordPress is free. Blog and host your content. Even if you're a decentralized project, if you got a website, you can put a blog on it. Put the content on your blog so you can control that content and drive inbound links to your website. And then what you can do is then link to that content on Medium, do an excerpt, and then you get that traffic push backwards from Medium. And I've been testing this. I like to test things when it comes to content. Google scans Medium I've found about every half hour. It gets updated that quickly. And I don't know if you know, but you train Google on how basically Google kind of alters their frequency of crawling based on your traffic and your size. But Medium is such a big site that once you want to, if you want to like get content backlinks, now they're not going to do follow links, but if you still want links back to your site and you want them quickly, Medium is a great way. But post back to content from Medium that you already have it hosting on your site. So like, I like your idea about, doing like a little edited short, almost TikTok kind of length video on Twitter to get people to drive traffic to your YouTube. Well, maybe you put that little video, that little on Medium, and then link back to the full version on YouTube. And I think that would be good SEO. But I don't see anybody doing that.
No, I think that's great. And man, I have like so many things I want to say about what you just said. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like you said, you could post it on Twitter and Medium. Like that's actually a huge part of my content strategy, is putting things on, is reutilizing content and taking like one piece of content, maybe it's my YouTube video, and turning it into all of these other pieces of content. So maybe I clip 3 different short videos and I put that on Twitter and LinkedIn and, Instagram and like all these different places. But then maybe I take a quote and then I turn it into a graphic and I share that out too. And so you don't have to always constantly be coming up with all of these ideas for content. You can take the content you're already making and piece that out into more micro pieces of content. And it helps you to have a really active social platform at that point. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on that you said was about backing up your own content. I think that's so smart, because you're right. What if YouTube all of a sudden is like, we just deleted that video and you didn't have a backup of it? Or like you said, that blog post. I mean, it's not that hard to back it up. And I say that, I don't actually, like my website's just coming live here in a little bit, but I do back things up to the Steam blockchain. Actually, I mentioned earlier how that's how I got started. And so the content, even though I don't personally like own the domain of that, it's on the blockchain and it can't be deleted. And so I know that that's going to be there. So that's been kind of my backup to this point, which probably isn't quite as good as, having your own website, but it's another good option as well, I think.
Yeah. And I think ultimately it's about, driving traffic back to content that you can monetize other ways. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take all my old audio podcast content, and I started looking it up because I've done multiple content. I've done multiple podcasts over the years, and I have almost 200 shows, almost 200 hours of content that's just sitting on my server. It's not hosted anywhere right now. And so what I've decided to do is I'm going to actually put them in. I'm going to put all that old content. I'm going to update it all in the SEO and all this. And it's going to take me 6 months to do it. I already know what I'm going to do. But it'll end up driving the size of this podcast, by midsummer, I'll have probably 300 posts on this feed. And I make a video out of each one of them. But the thing is, a lot of the people I interviewed are still actually way more famous now than when I interviewed them before. So they have their own names have good SEO associated with them. And I think that's important. And it doesn't mean I'm going to make my feed, stale. I'm going to mix it in and I'm going to list it as an archive show or what have you. But it's about building up the size of, the RSS feed, the number of videos, and it shows it's a more representative of the body of the work that I've done as a content creator. It's just, I just got to package it. I got to repackage it. And that's going to take a long time, because the way I do and I don't mind talking SEO stuff, but what I do with SEO with this podcast, I do 3 blog posts for every show, and a Medium post and a forum post, and they get cross-posted to 6 different social media sites. And so it's a lot of work. The posting and just cross-posting takes a couple hours for every show. It's not just the show editing, but all that cross-linking will turn it into a pretty big, I think it'll be a pretty big show here in the next couple months. It just takes time. Hardcore SEO, I mean, it's an investment of time. But if you do that correctly and you have like a central hub where all that SEO and all that inbound link juice goes, you then can rank for anything you want to rank for. And then that's pretty good tool if you want. As a content creator, the idea is that you create enough content, but you bring it back. I liken it to like a hub and spoke system. You want that hub, and I like the hub to be something I control. And then all those other extraneous social media platform sites help content go out, but they also link back into your own content, which drives up your SEO from the search engines.
No, that's amazing. And, SEO is something that I'm still kind of even learning about, because I realize how powerful it is. I'm like, okay, I got to dig into this more, but it's true. When you're not just throwing up content for the sake of content, and, that's kind of an area where I think a lot of crypto companies maybe go a little bit wrong, is they're like, I don't know, I need to tweet, I guess. So they like throw stuff up. But when you have more like research behind why you are saying what you're saying, why you're doing what you're doing, and you're actually bringing some intention to it, that's when you can really see some dynamic growth, because you're not just kind of running in circles. You're actually, the reason why you're doing certain things.
Absolutely. It was interesting, like on our main Tusk website, there was going to be a lot of subdomains for things like our GUI wallet and the Block Explorer and our forums. We have all that stuff being built out, or is built out at this point. And if you put something on a subdomain, the Google and other search engines treat things on a subdomain as a different website. And so whatever goodwill, as I call it, or SEO juice that your main website has, doesn't necessarily be pushed down to the subdomain. So we actually moved some things that were going to be in subdomains, and we moved them into directories because it's much better for SEO. And our developers are like, why are we spending all this time doing this? Because it's a lot of work. And I'm like, trust me, it's going to be a big deal, because I know when on the Tusk website, what do all the trackers and all the exchanges link to? Well, they link to your Block Explorer, they link to your forum. And I go, those are going to be the sites, all the big sites in crypto will be linking to those sites. And we want all that inbound link juice going to the main website, not a subdomain. And so that's somehow I think about SEO, is that we structure our whole project around how some of that SEO stuff is going to work out, knowing how these things work. And I think that a lot of crypto projects would be better off starting to get some marketers on their team so they can figure that stuff out too.
Absolutely. No, it's so true. And I think that as the space continues to evolve, we'll see more companies have that marketing budget too, right? Because I think that might be part of it. A lot of it is it's the developers, it's the people running it, or, the nerds behind the project, right, that actually are building it and making it work. And so they're going to need that help, that marketing, that, kind of personal touch, that like how all that stuff works as they continue to grow. But yeah, so I think that maybe that's just kind of the phase that we're in as a, just in general, as a space, as we're maturing, we'll see more of that come up, I hope.
I think so. It was interesting, and our project's focused on the gun industry, and that's one of our little niche is that we're just kind of focused on that space. And it's interesting. You mentioned earlier if the terms of services of these platforms change. So it's interesting. You may not know this, but you don't look like a hardcore gun guy, but. Did you know that the gun world is one of the biggest communities on Instagram right now?
I did not. That is interesting. And I do own a few guns, by the way. So I do shoot sometimes. Yeah.
Nice. So, so it's interesting because the way the gun world is locked out, not only does the gun world have a lot of problems with payments and financing, they can't get bank accounts, they can't use PayPal, Square, Stripe, they can't use any of those payment systems. And our theory and thesis about how we launched Tusk was that if you're going to get mass adoption, you need to start with people that have in industries that have a recognized problem with traditional payment methods. If you're just trying to sell grandma on crypto, you're not solving a problem for grandma, you're creating work for grandma. That's not a good way to get adoption. So we're focusing on the gun industry, and we used to have a business in that space. So, and I'm a gun guy, so it just kind of is awesome. But because of marketing, like the gun space is interesting because not only do they have problem with payments, but they have problems with marketing on top of that because they're not allowed to do pay-per-click on most major platforms. Google doesn't allow, you can't sell and market guns on Google. You can't do you can't buy, Facebook and Twitter and most of the social platforms won't allow you to buy ads. So what was happening is the gun world has created all these, by the way, this could be a good option for you, all the influencers, and all you have to do is be a girl and hold a gun and take a picture, and then big companies will pay you lots of money for that on Instagram.
I already have a ton of those. My goodness, I'm missing out.
But here's the thing. Facebook said 2 days ago, they're going to fire the gun influencers off their platform. So they're banning gun influencers now. That just happened. So they said in the upcoming weeks it's gonna go down that road. And I was talking to someone in the gun space who's very influential the other day, and we were talking about it. He says it's gonna happen because he's the owner of Gun Industry Marketplace, and we were talking about this. His name's Owen York, and I just put that out today, I think. But we had a good conversation offline about this, and he's like, they're gonna fire those guys too, and he called it. He totally nailed it. And so it's interesting. This goes back to, but now if you're an influencer and you built your business and your income now around being like an Instagram influencer in the gun space, you are now finding yourself, you don't have a job. Or you probably won't have a job pretty soon. And it's just interesting kind of seeing now, if you're an influencer and you only did Instagram, that's great. I would say what you should have been doing the whole time is hosting all those pictures on your own website and cross-linking them from Instagram. So now you're still a place where people can go. And your content is there because now they don't have all that link juice. If you think about it. So if you've been building up this following for, potentially years, right? You haven't been driving all this traffic back to your own personal website. Where do you do now? You've lost all that time. All that content now may be scrubbed. Maybe you can download it, I think, but all that goodwill and all that time, people only know how to get to your main, Instagram account. They probably don't, you're probably not even ranking in Google. And so that to me is what, as far as I see a lot of these influencers, are just not understanding that the game can play or change. I'm sorry, if you're playing the game, it can change very quickly and you have no control over that. So you should always be thinking about in the back of your mind, if I'm going to make a living as an influencer. For instance, what if, and this has happened a couple of times in the last 2 years where Twitter wouldn't allow crypto ads and Facebook still won't allow crypto ads unless you know somebody, because we've tried. And so the question is, what if you're a crypto influencer and now crypto Twitter decides to cull you?
Ooh, yeah, that would hurt.
It would hurt. But if you're driving all your content back to your own website, and that's your focus, is pushing people to your website that you do control. I think, to me, that's the smarter way to go. And I don't know the best way to do it. I mean, obviously we're all doing cross-platform stuff, and I do a ton of Twitter. I do a ton of all the social media stuff too. But most of what I do is drive people back to my website. For instance, I have a YouTube channel, right? But I don't link to my YouTube channel. What I do is I actually embed my YouTube videos in a blog post for every show. And I SEO that blog post. It just says so-and-so interview video. So guess what? If I lose my YouTube channel, I can re-upload all that content to another video player and put it back. And I maintain the SEO. I just need to change the embed.
I need to start doing that with my YouTube videos. Part of like what you're talking about with not being so dependent on particular platforms is actually why I'm just building a website right now, and I'm really close to launching it. It's going to be lealovescrypto.com, because
Nice.
girlgonecrypto.com was apparently taken, but
it was, I think, by some guys that got in trouble for it, but that's a different discussion.
And so, but part of it is because I want to start actually building an email list, and like you said, building those backlinks, because then I actually have a way to contact and connect with people that like my content. If something happens, if suddenly, I mean, crypto, especially crypto, is something that I think the market is still kind of figuring out. Governments, these big centralized social media sites are still figuring out what they think about it. And like you said, they might be like, oh, well, we don't want to see crypto ads anymore. And so that's certainly a possibility. And so I think it's super smart what you guys are doing. And that's such a good idea with the YouTube videos. And definitely, because I already write a blog post to go with my YouTube videos almost anyway, right. So.
Well, and I'm not saying a corporation would ever do anything wrong, but you can't tell me that. Well, let's put in perspective, right? You got Twitter with, they're pushing Bitcoin and some of their own little weird social media things that they're doing. And I don't trust Jack any more than anybody else. But then what happens if Facebook launches Libra? You don't think they're not going to do something to drive people to Libra at the expense of other type of projects? Absolutely. And how does that look for not only, banning ads, but are they going to ban the content too? Are they going to or maybe they just bury the content? Oh yeah,
Shadow
you can
ban
post
it.
this, but we're going to shadow ban it so no one can see it. And to me, I expect that to happen. And I work backwards from there, because I don't trust these guys. I mean, if Jack wanted to be open and not worry about censorship, he could make that happen on crypto. But he's like, no, we want to make our own standard. There's already open social media standards out there. Web3 stuff's already working on that. You don't need to create a new consortium board of advisors to tweak Twitter. You could just adopt a standard that already exists. But they're not going to do they're not going to do something that they don't control. And that's what it comes down to, because, especially with the Silicon Valley the way it is, it's about control to monetize. And there's power in that. And they're not going to give up that power, regardless of the stuff they say. So I don't trust companies. I don't trust governments, and I don't trust big corporate media guys whenever they talk about free and open anything.
Right.
Devil's always in the details. Now I sound like a ranting lunatic, but it happens from time to time. But so where do you think things are going to be in crypto here in the next year or two? I'm not looking for like a hardcore money prediction, but where do you think it's going to happen to the content creators in this space?
Oh, I think it is going to be a wild ride, because when you look at the content creators that were here in 17 before the big bull run, I mean, they got massive followings really because they were creating content during that bull run. So all of a sudden, all these people are like Googling things and looking things up and trying to find YouTube videos about Bitcoin, and they're on Twitter looking for questions. And so I think that a lot of those creators really kind of like swept up a big portion of their following, probably in that however many month period. And so I think that'll happen again in the next bull run, because again, there'll be people that aren't usually really consuming a lot of crypto content that are all of a sudden really interested, because maybe they bought a little bit of Bitcoin like a long time ago and they're like, wait, now it's worth how much? What do I do? Or they get the FOMO and they're like, do I need to buy now? What do I do? So I think that in addition to kind of media mentions of the news and different people talking about crypto the next time we have a big bull run, I think that just the general population looking for content is going to massively increase than the current amount that we have right now.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So I guess I need to get all my content out there before the next bull run so I can ride that wave, right?
Right.
But I think you're right. I think crypto's dead right now, and a lot of people. I don't have hopium, by the way. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not injecting like, oh, it's gonna go to $1 billion. I'm like, no. I'm very cognizant, and I'm a heretic, and that's why I piss people off. But I think it's possible that the price of Bitcoin's $7,000, and maybe that's what the actual market price of it should be. I don't know that it's going to go crazy at any one point, but and I'm open to that because nobody knows. Everybody's just guessing right now. But I can tell you, even just like the community right now. I mean, we just had to do our swap, and it's interesting, like how many people are diving in, like, oh, you guys swapped, like, yeah, we swapped 3 months ago. Thanks for playing, because and I think that's what's happened. I think crypto got boring 6 months into 2018. Crypto got boring starting about a year and a half ago. After the market tanked, people just went away. And it's funny because even maybe within a year ago, it's like the number of scammers just kind of faded away too. It's like the scammers got bored.
They stopped caring too. Yeah.
They're like, oh, I feel bad for you. Like, I'm a scammer, but I'll give you some money because you're down on your luck, right? So I definitely see that. I think the market got really quiet, and even the communities got quiet. And I think you're right. I think when the numbers start going crazy, whenever that happens again, I think people will get a little excited and start doing the research. So it's a good note. I think it's a good time to build. I think even if you're a content creator in this space, it is an excellent time to build. But I think you need to keep your content on your own stuff too, or at least have that reserve that you're always kind of building yourself up. Yeah, I think that's important. I also notice I'm a big believer in personal branding now too. And I think that we had I went through the social media wave back 10 years ago when social media became a thing. And it's interesting because all the big people that were big, I'm big Twitter, I'm a social media guru kind of thing, just like these crypto gurus, right? In fact, there's a couple big crypto gurus that were social media gurus, and now they're crypto gurus. It's kind of funny. But I think what happened is if they don't do something else besides just kind of try to ride that latest wave and be relevant in this latest wave. But I think people need to go through and build themselves into something. Out of that social media expert guru wave, there was hardly any of them that are relevant today. I think one of the biggest ones that is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know who he is.
Love him. Yeah.
So I actually interviewed him a while back, and Gary, Gary came out of the social media world, and then he parlayed it into a lot of other things. And he's one of the few that crossed that chasm when being social media is just media now. Everybody does it now. But 10 years ago, no one was doing it. I mean, it was all brand new. And so, but there was all these other people that were trying to, pimp themselves out as the latest, greatest social media marketing guru expert. Right. And I kind of liken them to all these traders, right? These crypto traders. I'm like, you've never traded a stock in your life, but now you're like this excellent super duper trader on crypto, and you got some avatar dog, but is avatar dog going to be there in 5 years? Are they going to be relevant in 5 years? And I don't think they will be. I just don't see that because they're not building anything. They're not building anything back to a real website. They're not building themselves back into a person, like their personal identity. If your identity is this random cartoon thing, but you won't dox yourself for whatever reason, I don't think you're getting the benefit of all the content you're really creating. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, there's certain waves that I think are kind of easier to jump on, or maybe more profitable to jump on than others. And, I would definitely say that crypto trading tips and kind of daily charting and stuff like that, I'm like, I am not an expert in that. I'm like, if I really wanted my channel to blow up, I would start doing that. But I know that that's not necessarily, my kind of, my niche, my passion, my where I feel like I kind of find a groove. And so I guess kind of a question I have back to you, because I'm curious something you were just talking about is so if that kind of content, is that dog, whatever, is that going to be around in 5 years? What kind of crypto content do you think is still going to be relevant 5 years from now? Or are you more just saying build your own personal brand and then you can evolve along with that as things change?
I would ask if you went and looked at the social media world of who is the social media expert on social media. And you
Right.
probably can't find that person anymore, or you probably don't know them as like a household name brand. And I would say is, it's one thing to be an expert in using social media as a tool or any kind of marketing as a tool, but if you yourself are as the content creator, I think you need to make yourself into something that allows flexibility for evolution going
Mhm.
forward. So for instance, even and I think about this even with projects and businesses. And when we came up with the name, the rebrand for Tusk, because we started as OCC in the beginning, and Tusk just stands for the Universal Settlement Coin. And it's interesting because we also want to plan the elephant thing, because that's our thing, right? The little elephant guy.
Yep.
So, but TUSC, not TUSK. But what we said is we're going to start off in this one industry, just kind of like Amazon was a bookstore for a long time.
Right.
But we're not going to pigeonhole our branding around that one industry, because that's too limiting. And if we're successful in one industry, we should be able to evolve and grow into others. And I think about personal branding the same way. If all you are is a crypto trader, okay, make a lot of money, great. I mean, I'm not dissing that. And maybe you're really good at trading. That's great. But where does that take you? What are the options for you to evolve out of that? And that's the question I would ask is how are you prepared to evolve when no one really cares about crypto trading tips anymore? Because at some point it's going to change. It's not going to be as important out there. And what is your plan for evolving, and how does what you do with your brand now affect that in 5 years? And that's just the question. I don't know maybe you're funny. Maybe you have a great personality. Maybe you're really smart about business on top of that. So you could talk about trading, but also business. And that's what I'm doing with this show. I'm not going to limit it to crypto stuff, because it's not me, because I don't just eat, sleep, and breathe crypto from the standpoint that that's all there is in my life. In fact, I have a lot of different interests, and I love small business and startups, and I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and I'm going to cover that because that's important to me. And that's part of who I am. And so to me, I don't want to limit myself to only talking about this one tiny subject that a few 100,000 people in the world right now care about. I want to talk about it. Like I had a guy the other day, and he pitched me. I didn't know dinosaurs are fake guy, and I love conspiracy theories. I'm not saying I believe them, but I love conspiracy theories. And the guy pitched me, and I'm like, that's just funny. I've never heard this conspiracy story that you think like there's a whole group of people out there that think dinosaurs are fake. And there's a big dinosaur industrial complex, and museums are in on it. And I'm like, I know people that work at museums. They do not seem like conspiracy. They do not seem like there's like the mafia, right? And so I'm like, I had him on the show because it was interesting to me, and I wanted to learn about it. And so if I was just strictly a crypto show, I couldn't have that guy on, and that wouldn't be any fun.
Actually, it's on my list to watch that or listen to that episode. I saw that, and I'm like, I need to listen to that, because I've been hearing more people talk about the dinosaur conspiracy. I'm like, what is this? I was like, I've seen Land Before Time. Come on, don't try to fool me. No,
I flied?
just
No. Did I fly? No, you falled. One of my favorite. Yep.
Yep.
I really love that show,
well
actually. I still have that show on VHS somewhere, I think.
Do you really?
I do, but I don't have a way to play it because I don't have a VHS player anymore. But I think that's important, is that if you're going to be a content creator, be flexible. Be flexible, and make sure you have some method where you can control it and drive that content back somewhere that you can monetize in other ways. And just like I live this, like I still have all my old content, and I'm like, you know what? That would be good to build, an extra 200 shows into my feed. And I have a goal. I want to do like 100 to 150 interviews this in 2020. That's kind of my goal. I'm going to do probably 3 a week. But then you throw on another couple hundred shows in the mix, by the end of the year, it'll be a big show. And that's important. And it's numbers, and it's inbound links. And, maybe someone looks at an old show that I did with someone who has a big brand name. I interviewed some big people before, like CEO of Zappos, one of the former CEOs of Starbucks, the former governor of Colorado. I mean, lots of people. I just call people up and I come on my show. Like, okay, that's my show. So, but it's good content and still recognizable brand names. And Gary Vaynerchuk, I interviewed him. I interviewed lots of people, and so why not throw that content out there? And it's interesting as an archive show, you can see how they've changed in time and where they're still the same. It's kind of fun. So that's what we're going to be doing with this project. And to me, it's all about meeting interesting people in the space. And I think with content creators, you got to be flexible and you got to think about the future. Because if this is what you're trying to do, and I'm not trying to do this as part of my job or as my job. So I'm just prefacing this. I would probably have to do things a little differently if I wanted to do it as a part of my job, but I'm not. But I would say to people that are even you or people that are aspiring to be, content creators for a living, how are you leveraging that back into yourself? And how are you monetizing that? Or what are you building that you can monetize over time? And to me, that would be important. Like, if you're really good at this, if you're really a good brand ambassador and you can build your own personal brand up by this one topic, that's how you get picked up by big companies to go around the world and be their brand ambassadors. And if you can generate an audience that way, there's lots of opportunities there if that's something you desire to do. And you just got to be thinking about that the whole time on how do you establish yourself as being good at getting your own brand out there. And then how do you go through and, put that as a solution to, like, say, a big corporation or something at some point later in life? Let's just say this industry doesn't need influencers anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that being able to build a personal brand, being able to market, understanding how to communicate with people and how to be interesting. Does that make sense? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how to...
I'm screwed then.
But just how to create things that people find entertaining, educational, or in some way make their moment, their day better when they come across it. I think that if you can kind of capture that skill, then you can translate that into so many different arenas, like you were talking about. Like, and maybe it's not even in the same industry. Like, it could even be like, hey, so I'm able to have this kind of engagement, or I have this kind of feeling or vibe with the audiences that I talk to and with my content. You can take that really anywhere. So I think it's almost like a good life skill just to kind of learn how to communicate online and how to create content that is interesting and engaging for people. And so in terms of, like, if the industry doesn't need influencers anymore, like, I personally think that I don't really love the word influencer, but I think that industry is still growing, and I think it is going to evolve and change. And honestly, I think that the crypto space is a little behind the game on certain trends and kind of the influencer marketing realm. I think that a lot of people are just looking at your follower numbers, and they're not really looking at engagement so much, where I think in the rest of the world, they've kind of moved on to be like, okay, well, let's actually look at what people are really saying and how people are really interacting. So I'm kind of excited to see the crypto space hopefully kind of come along that trend, because I think you get more robust partnerships when you do that sort of thing. And now I'm starting to sound like a rambling fool. I'm just going on about
you know what? It sounded great, so just go with it. But I think you're right. I think it comes down to if you can build an audience and a market. Let's just say if you can build an audience about yourself and you do that really well and in a compelling way, that's how you get a TV gig. That's how you get hired to do other things for other people. So success breeds success. Ultimately, people want to work with people that have done it before. And that's how it is. So you got to understand. That's why I like the personal brand. That's why I like doing video on top of audio now, because if you're just like this crypto dog or whatever avatar it is out there, people don't know who you are. Yeah. It's hard for them to kind of get a feel for who you are. And I find it's interesting because with social media, when I used to go to like Blog World and the affiliate summits and all these kind of related type of social media conferences back in the day, everybody just kind of used their own real name. So you can like, oh, you're so-and-so. Hey, nice to meet you. But now you're like, and I feel like an idiot sometimes when I go to crypto conferences. They're like, oh, you're senior death crypto analyst or whatever, it's like, oh, I feel like a moron saying, oh, you're so-and-so, right? It's like, I'm like, dude, I can't take it seriously. I really can't. I'm just like, oh, you're that taco dog or whatever. Right. I'm just Rob. That's just me. I'm not that cool. I don't have a cape, though. Maybe I need a cape. Chris, should I get a cape? All right. Okay, the wife says I can get a cape, so maybe I need a cape. That'll be my thing. Oh, you're Rob with the cape. But I think you're right. I think it's important that people build their brand around themselves. And if they're going to be in this space, and then they can leverage it and market it in any way they want. And I think that would be my thing. Now, maybe these guys have some kind of, I always wonder if someone's like an anon. I always wonder what they're hiding. And that's what I think about, like, right. It's like, who are you afraid of? Why don't you want people to know you're doing this thing?
Okay.
And to me, I mean, and that's my own brain. And maybe I get it because it's like, it's crypto. And I'm like, well, if you're not doing anything illegal, why do you care? Right. If you're spending all this time and you're really serious, it's like, I just think it's weird to me. So, but anyway,
I think kind of just to kind of offer like a little like counter thought on that. Like, I mean, I put my name out there too because I don't, really care. But at least for me anyway, the reason I kind of went with a more like, like Girl Gone Crypto, like, more kind of funny, creative name is because I wanted people's attention spans are about this big. For those of you that are listening and not watching, it's really small. And like, I think that when people see an account and it's like, maybe so-and-so following this or something, someone retweeted it. If it just says Lea Thompson, then they don't necessarily know like, what is that person about? But when they see something, it's like crypto, they're like, oh, that might be an account I'm interested in. And so like, for me, I kind of did that more as like people can make that split-second decision that they want to click on my name and check out my page. So anyway, just that's kind of at least me where I was coming from.
You just need to put the word girl in crypto and then you're good. Right. It's funny. I see like these guys, and I'm not picking on, there's just a lot of thirsty boys out there. And it's like, you guys have a huge advantage. I mean, and it's funny because even my wife has, I don't know, she's got a lot of followers on Twitter too, like 19,000 or something. And it's funny because I just mentioned her in there, then I'm like, oh, and they're like, follow. I'm like, man, I have to I'm losing followers every day. Right. I'm like, I'm just keep my head above water. But she's like, oh, I got more followers. I'm like, dude, you just breathe. You're a girl and you get followers. All right. I'm just picking. So Lea, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can find me, we've talked a lot about Twitter tonight. That's probably where I hang out the most online. So you can find me Girl Gone Crypto. Also my YouTube channel, Girl Gone Crypto. But I'm also on Instagram, LinkedIn, pretty much wherever people hang out. You can probably find me if you just search Girl Gone Crypto.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll try to get this edited before the holidays.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob. It was really fun hanging out with you.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Rob McNealy program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcnealy.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.